So some of the work that I do involves making custom maps like this one or this one, where you can see there's lots of different features overlaid onto a base map. And the way you do this is by working with what's called GeoJSON files. Essentially, they're files that contain thousands and thousands of coordinates in a JSON structure like this one. But you can see here the coordinates, they have, some of them have up to 14 decimal places, which is really unnecessary. If you want sort of centimeter precision, then you only need 6 decimal places. So these like 14 decimal place coordinates are like at the nanometer scale. Really not that necessary. But of course what it does is it makes your file much bigger. So things will load a bit slower and maybe more complex to render. You'll also see those properties at the top there, and they allow you to set things like colors, but more importantly you can have like custom ones that let you categorize the different types of features. And sometimes while you might have all of the features in one file, it can be useful to split them out into different files. So I was thinking I really need some sort of like handy tools just to let me cut down the resolution of the coordinates, i.e. drop them down to say 6 or 7 places, and to allow me to say, hey, look, this file has these different properties, different categories. Let me split it by whatever the categories are. So I thought I'd build a quick set of tools, and this is the kind of stuff that I'm going to need more and more over time. So I'm going to probably keep on developing this one. But first of all, I'm just going to kick off in Laravel to prototype it, using Claude, of course, and see where we go from there. Right, so I'm going to do this all in terminal. We've seen the kind of outcome that we have with the maps and so on. So yeah, I'm going to create a new Laravel project called GeoTools. I'm going to set it up using Livewire. No authentication needed. This isn't going to be like a web app or anything like that, just going to run on my machine. And I'm going to install Laravel Boost, which is kind of documentation for AI around tools within the Laravel ecosystem. So not just Laravel, things like Livewire and Tailwind and so on. So that's all just installing for me. And I am going to be skipping through a lot of the actual production of files and so on, because it's all been done in terminal, and it's not really something you should watch. So yeah, so installing Boost, getting rid of Junie, which is PHP Storm specific. So yeah, so that's Boost installed, and now it's saying, do I want to run npm install? What that does is it builds the assets, i.e. it's going through and it's going to compile the JavaScript and the CSS for the basic project into one file. And you can see there it says appcc, you got the CSS file there and the JavaScript file there. So now I'm going to create a spec file. You can call it whatever you want. I just write it in Markdown. So touch is a bash command to create a file. So touch spec.md. And now I'm writing my spec. So I want to create a suite of tools to help me work with GIS data, particularly file size. I want to achieve this by parsing a file and reducing the coordinate resolution. So the user needs to be able to ask for a source file, i.e. load a file, specify the number of digits, and I like them to see the various resolutions. So like a little table that shows, you know, if it's 7 decimal places, if it's 10 decimal places, you know, what is the actual resolution of that. And then I would like to be able to take one file and separate them into different files based on the properties, the properties array in there. Okay, so that's done, and now I'm saying, okay, I've opened up Claude, read the spec file, and go and build it, and I'll give you an example GeoJSON file. And it's now doing it. So it's going to go and read that. It's asking for various permissions as you go along. Okay, so I put it into plan mode. So with Shift Tab, you can go through plan mode, accept edits, and so on. But I put it into plan mode, and that means it's not actually going to go and do anything until I've read what it wants to do. So usually gives you, you know, like a sort of an A4 equivalent page of text saying, look, here's what I'm gonna go and do. I thought about it, and you have the opportunity there to accept that or to change things. So here's the plan. Create 2 artisan commands for working with GeoJSON files backed by a share service. Okay, and it's telling me what it's going to create in terms of the files. Okay, so I can see straight out that this isn't actually what I want. It's trying to create like a terminal app where I would type out a command and it would then accept a file and so on. But I don't really want that. I actually want a UI. So I'm not going to accept this plan. But that's good. It's got the precision table there. Yep, like that. So, so six places is 11 centimeter and 7 places is 1 centimeter. Okay, so I got that wrong. Okay, I'm not really going to read the rest because I'm going to change the plan. But you can see it's doing everything, like, you know, it's going to build tests and all that sort of stuff. So I use the arrow keys to go down and say nope. First of all, I'm clarifying a point that it made, because I had put in that, you know, there was a property called surface type as an example, but it took that quite literally. So I clarified that, and then I said, look, I actually want a Livewire GUI, graphical user interface. So it's basically going to go and build me a little website instead, which I can run on my laptop. Okay, so now this is stuff that it does along the way. It says, oh, I need to search. Can I have permission to search? And you have to give permission. It's saying that it wants to be able to search the docs in Boost. You give it permission. This happens on every project. So when it first encounters, you know, a scenario where it wants to use some tools in a new project, it asks for permission. You can say, okay, you always have permission to do this, but that can be a little bit dangerous sometimes. Okay, so now it's saying, okay, I'm going to build a Livewire GUI, and then now it's just kind of doing, it's the same plan. Tell me what files it's going to do. It's going to build a layout. Okay, so now through seeing that there's a layout, I now get that, okay, it has understood that. Yeah, it's going to build an actual web page. It's talking about Tailwind, so that's for CSS for styling, and it's going to use the latest Livewire. So it's saying Livewire SFC, which is single file component, and that's only really something that's now become standard in the past few weeks, I think, actually. So it's good because that Laravel Boost thing has the most up-to-date documentation. Generative AI tends to sort of like lag behind, but the good thing about using Laravel, and perhaps it's the same in other ecosystems, is that they have boost and they keep the documentation up to date for Claude or whatever you're using, and that sort of like drives forward the standard and the best practices. So okay, it's now setting out the task list because it had the plan's been accepted, it's gone away and sort of like figured out some of the documentation, the details of how it's going to do things, and now it's going through and taking off its task list. So you can see that one at the top, create the GeoJSON service. Oh, it was orange and now it's just gone to tick to green. So yeah, we don't have to watch all that. It's built a whole load of the things. It's just got a couple of things left on its to-do list. It's writing the tests. We can see it's been going for 3 minutes 48 seconds. It had to actually go and figure out how to write tests for this new version of Livewire. So that's interesting that it's just kind of doing that on the fly. Okay, we're 4 minutes in, and now it just said we're going to build the front end assets. So it's asking me, can I run npm build or vite build or whatever it is that you use. And of course I've said yes it can. And now it wants to run some tests because it's good like that. And there was a failure in the test, so now it's fixing a few things and it's going to run the tests again. Right, and that has worked, and now it's giving me a summary of the work that it did. So I'm going to go to geotools.test on my machine, and first of all I'm going to open the GeoJSON file that had that's nice, it's got all the resolutions laid out. But yeah, I need to open the GeoJSON file that I showed you earlier that had, the 14 points. Okay, I can pick how many decimal places I want. That's good. I have a hunch that even if I didn't ask for that, it would have put that in. Okay, so let's process that, and we can see that it's gone down by 37%, which is great. And there's a nice UI there. It's saying, do you want to do another one? But no, it's just going to download it, and we can see there, if you look closely, yeah, it's gone down to 6 decimal places. I guess what I could do is put a preview feature in there so I can test it on a map and see if it actually still has, if the map still works. But let's try the split feature. Okay, that's really nice. So it's gone out and figured out what are all the different properties in the file, and it's actually the level one that we're interested in. That's a custom property that I added, and that's kind of like the type of route, and it split them, and yeah, I can download them individually, which is really cool. So as I mentioned at the beginning, this is the kind of thing that I'll probably continue to develop and actively use. I mean, there's some obvious features there. We've looked at splitting files. You also have to merge files sometimes as well. I need to check if I could have opted for multiple properties there so that we could have 2 different kinds of categories in one file. There's file conversions, because there's things like GeoJSON, GPX, shapefiles, all of these different formats that frankly are pretty much the same. But yeah, file conversion would be useful as well. So, and I definitely have some other plans for features, and I'll go into those another time. I think I'll make some follow-up videos for this one.